Now, the Safa presidential elections are happening this weekend, and on the eve of this event happening, we have roped in a serious contender for the presidency of the South African Football Association, that is Miss Ria Ledwaba. Now, I must mention to our viewers at home that we did also extend an invitation to the incumbent, Dr. Danny Jordan, and unfortunately he has declined due to other commitments he has this morning. But good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, good morning. Good morning to the viewers out there. I'm happy to be here.
Certainly, we're happy to have you. Before we talk about tomorrow's elections and what the expectations are, let's perhaps start about before your campaign for the presidency. You spoke about how you desired and wanted to leave football until you were persuaded to stay. What is it that made you change your mind and decide to stay on?
I think for 8 years that I've been there are a lot of things, key things that I felt they were not done, and I felt maybe it's an opportunity for me to actually do that, change the situation that is there currently.
And Miss Ria, as you speak about changing the situation that exists currently, some people may be sitting at home and say, for 8 years you were part of Safa, for 8 years you saw the happenings in Safa. Why is it that during that 8-year period you haven't been able to do anything, and how is it that you think now you'll be able to bring about change?
Well, for the 8 years you have been in the board, we have been saying all the things that I'm saying now. I've been raising them all the time, you know, and unfortunately you have a leader, you follow that leader. When the leader says you go left and you want to go right, there's nothing you can do. And I think a lot of people out there ask that question, but when you're in that board, the final decision is with the chair of that board.
Indeed. Now bring us into some of these issues that you say you've experienced in these past 8 years, where you've tried to voice your opinion, you've tried to take a different direction, and how you want to do things differently should you be elected as the Safa president over this weekend.
Well, there are key issues for me. One is the issue of the reveries that we're talking about every day, where there's violence and all that. And I'm saying we can't have reveries being paid by the teams. The team's responsibility is to come to the field of play and play. We can't have that situation. And that situation, we've debated it time and again in the NEC, but it is never implemented, where we're saying the association must take the responsibility, not allow any corrupt, you know, bribery or any sort of that to happen between the club and the referee. That's one thing. But the other thing is school sports. State, we don't have school sport. The former players that we have, we got them from school sports. So our school sports is dead, because also you can't have policy makers also implementing those policies. You need to have policy makers, and you have to have administrators, separation of power. And I don't think in our association we have separation of power. We interfere into the administration of the association while we are the policy makers. That's school sports. The local football association, they're not sponsored, they're not funded. So how do you have where our young under 10, under 12, under 5 are not funded? How do you then have the local football association actually performing in terms of development if they are not funded? The regions are funded, but you know, that funding is not consistent. You get your funding in January and you get it in June. So I'm saying let's create an opportunity for the regions to be able to do what they need to do without calling the president and asking, when am I getting my grant? We should be able to give them at least quarterly, so that they can also be able to plan, not this monthly that doesn't actually come on a monthly basis.
And it does make it difficult from them, from a planning point of view, to prepare themselves for what they need to prepare for, of course, leading into the year. And as you speak about this issue of funding and them receiving money late, something that I do want to touch on, and I know it's something that you're also passionate about, is women's football in this country. I mean, we've seen the likes of Hollywood Bets coming on board, Cecil coming on board, and of course we're seeing more women's football on our television screens, but there's still so much work to be done. And we've heard interviews of some of the chairmen of some of these clubs talking about, I need to fly an entire team to Cape Town. It costs me a lot of money. I'm not getting the money on time. I have to spend my own salary to fly the team, to feed the girls. And at the end of the day, they're also not playing to get paid.
Yeah, that's the current situation right now. I mean, I'm talking about the region, talking about the clubs. You cannot give the club a grant on a monthly basis at a certain amount, and the next month it is reduced, and you haven't even communicated with the clubs to say, this month you will get your money less, this amount. So how do then the club prepare for themselves? Yes, and the club is going to be punished for not attending that game, whereas you didn't get the funds as you were getting it all along. So those are some of the issues that are very critical. I mean, a team that register, that come and pay an affiliation of almost 10,000 rand gets nothing. A team can't just come, at least give that team 10 soccer balls.
Yep.
You know, that's what they're going to play with. But you don't give them, there are no prize money given. They're given at, you know, people must just call first and ask for those. So we are in a situation, our situation is not a situation that could bring a lot of development. That's why we see our national team are not performing. There are just a lot of things that we are not performing as an organization.
We hear concerns coming in from the national team coach also speaking about it's not at the standard we'd like it to be at. As a national football coach, I'm not here to teach people how to kick the ball. I should be here to actually work with something that's already tangible, but he doesn't have that, according to him.
Yeah, no, it's just like the election that we are going in. We're going into an election with no rules at all. We get the rules as we go along. Yesterday there was a circular that was sent to all members saying the members must send them the name of the person who's going to cast the vote. Where have you ever heard something like that? Why would someone want to know who's the person? Because you have got 3 delegates that are coming there. That's in the statutes. The statutes are very clear. Give us 3 delegates that are appointed by the region. Now there's a circular that says, now give us the name of that person who's going to cast the vote. And you can guess. I'm very suspicious about that circular, and I've written to say, but where are you relying? This circular is relying on which article? And you don't actually get the answer. So we go in there very confident of what we have done within the 14 days. Remember, when people say you have campaigned, I haven't campaigned. I didn't get that. No candidate got the except the incumbent, because you can speak to the region at any given time. So 14 days is not enough, but we did what we have to do, and we're going to that election very, very confident, but with a lot of concerns in terms of, are we going to have a free and fair election there?
And as you speak about the circular, perhaps talk us through whose signature was the circular sent under? Did it come under the name of the CEO of the organization? What were the deadlines that were given in terms of the submission of who will be voting on behalf of the regions?
There are actually time frames. When we have a Congress, there are time frames. You don't get a circular a day before the election. But remember, the CEO of the organization can only send something that you get from, he only implements the decision of the NEC. We never had an NEC meeting. So the CEO might have written, but he must have written with an instruction, and the instruction can only come from the president, and the president is a candidate. So I am very worried. I'm a worried candidate, and I'm sure the other candidate also is worried that we are going there with the rules that we are given circulars as we go along. I don't know even how we're going to vote. I don't know if the voting is going to be secret. I don't know, because there are no rules at all. I'm going to be there and expect to be told in that Congress that this maybe they're going to vote with a raising of hands. I don't know, you know. So it's the nature of the election this year. It has never happened in the history of South African football. Maybe I am the problem. You know, maybe the reason why we don't have the rules is because I'm a candidate. Maybe I'm a serious challenger. So people feel like if we have regulations, then we are going to abide by those regulations.
But despite all of this, you're going to show up there tomorrow. You're going to be confident because you say you believe it's time for change in South African football.
Yes, I believe there's a time to change, and I'm saying to South Africans, because football is a national asset. I'm saying if tomorrow the voters that are there are going to decide to keep the status quo, we must just know that for the next 4 years, we are going to be crying. We are going to be talking the same language that we are talking today. But I'm asking those voters that are there, I've sent them a letter with the key factors of the things that needs to be changed in South Africa, and I'm trusting them that they're going to do the right thing tomorrow.
Well, that is how we wrap up this interview with the presidency candidate for the South Africa Football Association, Ria Ledwaba. The elections are, of course, taking place tomorrow. But on that note, that is how we wrap up your sports news right here on Morning Live. We'll do it all over again on Monday. Do have yourselves a blessed weekend ahead. Time now for an ad break. And, of course, on Monday, we'll give you the updates on how the elections go. Have a blessed day.